All right, everybody, come on in, come on in. Thank you all so much for being here. For anybody new here, hi, I am Maggie. You may know me from my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. Lucy and I are the founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman. We are very excited. We are getting ready for our big graduation weekend. What we do once a week here is usually we do a weekly Ask Us Anything, kind of like a wild card night. But we are actually in the middle of a series that we have just kicked off to talk about what we can learn from the ReesaTeesa TikTok saga. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lucy. And before I introduce myself, we are contrasting. You're the white t-shirt. I have the black top. It looks beautiful, actually. Anyway, I'm Lucy. I have a channel that, for the most part, was teaching Spanish, but now I've moved the content to be more related to maybe femininity, elegance, and cultural issues, specifically for women over 50. And I posted a video not too long ago. I think it was last week or so. And it was a little bit of thoughts in my head, on my introverted head. And thank you for the feedback. Celine, you had really good comments, and everybody else that went ahead and had some ideas about content that I would provide. That was very helpful. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. So without further ado, we are going to get started. So what we're doing is we are actually reviewing Risa Tisa's telenovela episode. So we're going to go all the way to the beginning. We kicked this off last week. I've made a playlist on my channel. So if you all want to watch keep up with us and watch the replays, you absolutely can. If you have no idea what we're talking about, I'll give you a quick synopsis. Then we're going to go right into her video with her permission. We are going to learn what are some of the red flags that she has admittedly missed that we all can learn from. So ReesaTeesa met a man online in 2020, and in the course of a year, they met, they dated, they moved in, got married, got pregnant, lost a baby, all of these things. And turns out she did not know who that man really was. And so she made a TikTok series basically revealing all. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning and look at the first introduction. And so she is making her rounds around social media and different networks now and basically telling her story. All right, so let me see if I can share my screen. I see you all coming in. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's go over to TikTok and I will mute myself. And this first episode, she's basically in her bathroom. It looks like she's getting ready. And this was, I'll call it the preamble. She's basically introducing herself, what she's going to talk about, and why. Each episode is 10 minutes, so we'll play a little bit and then we will give our commentary. We believe the older women should teach the young, and that's what we're going to do here. Lucy, anything else to say before we start?
I love what she's wearing on her head, which is to make curls naturally. I've been dying to get it from Amazon. So I'm wondering if she finishes and shows the end result after that. Just curious. Can't wait to see that one segment.
Oh my goodness, yes. And we did talk about appearance last week. But you know what? It's funny. I had no idea what that was. She has admitted she wears wigs. So you all will see throughout the series, sometimes she has her hair out, or I guess her wigs on. Sometimes she just has a scarf on. But you'll see in this video, there's these satin tools that you can put long hair around to kind of give it that spiral curl. I had no idea what it is, but we will all learn together. And okay, so let's go here and share and begin.
Hi, and welcome. We all know why you're here. You're here for part of the new series that I'm calling Who the Fuck Did I Marry? I'm going to create this playlist series, and I'm going to tell the story of how I met dated, married, and divorced, a real pathological liar. This is my introduction slash disclaimer video. First and foremost, I'm going to be truthful, even if it makes me look bad. I'm going to be honest, but I'm also not going to be disrespectful to anyone that was involved. I'm not going to use people's real names because I don't have their permission to do so, and the sister does not want any sort of litigation. I will tell you off the top, I have a sense of humor and I have sarcasm. So things that you see me laughing at, none of this is funny. But in order to get through it, I have to laugh. If I cry, I cry. I'm human. I'm a woman. This was traumatic. I'm going to do the best I can to upload as much of the story as I can, because I know people get so annoyed with the follow for part 4, follow me for part 17. I'm just going to do the best I can to keep uploading the videos each at a time. I'm going to go in order from the time we met until the time I got our divorce decree in the mail. So that is a lot of time to cover. Please give me the grace to just get it out. It may not be all in one day. It may not be all in 2 days. But what I can tell you is even if you don't necessarily see a video, I'm probably recording it and then I will upload it into the playlist titled, Who the Fuck Did I Marry?
All right, so let's take a little pause here. And I actually want to give a disclaimer. You all know the content that we make, and Lucy and I do not use profanity on our channels, but ReesaTeesa's title, I will call it Who the Freak Did I Marry? So let's talk a little bit about first impressions. Now, to me, I mean, Lucy and I have shared, we are older women. I'll be 49 later this year. Yes, I'm 48. And I find it fascinating that I'll just say young people today, or it's almost like part of culture that you go to social media to vent. There have been a lot of people that feel very strongly about why did she even do this? Now, full disclosure, I'm grateful that she did because not only is it content, but we can actually learn from this. But I'd love to know what you all think. And Lucy, what do you think about her even sharing what happened to her on social media for the world?
I mean, I guess it's a part of the modern behavior. One of the things that is concerning is that this will be here for the rest of what we know in social media. So if she ever decides to even dabble into getting married again, that future husband is going to be thinking, wait a minute, if things go wrong, am I going to be shown in social media this way? So is it even worth marrying her or starting a relationship with someone who vents and shares all of that private? Because if we see reality, that should be private information that should be dealt on your own. I get why she wants to vent and share it with the world, and um, in a way, that behavior is being rewarded because she's getting all of these different deals. But to what extent do we say, you know what, let's keep this private instead, and let's deal with it away from all these millions of people looking at this situation?
Such a great point, Lucy. And that's probably the first teachable moment, ladies. I mean, look, we give you the information as adults. You have the right to make the decision that you want to make. My man and I have had very strong conversations about this one, and he feels like, why even put this out there? I have watched the entire series. It's about 50 plus episodes. And again, you all, this was a pandemic relationship that happened in 2020. It is now 2024. And she has said that the reason why she wanted to tell this story is that hopefully it would help someone. And that's what we're doing here. We want to learn from it. But she also said that it was painful for her to relive this story. So keep that in mind, ladies. And like Lucy said, especially young ladies, hear me, the internet is forever. And, unfortunately for ReesaTeesa, this was so damaging. She has shared that she hasn't dated since, and she has a lot of trust issues. This series has gone mega viral. I believe over 400 million views on TikTok. Now, networks are reaching out to her. Things are happening that are, good exposure, I guess, but it is a double-edged sword. So ladies, just keep that in mind. My advice would be, if you have a moment and you need to have some type of emotional outburst, I would recommend that you withdraw from social media instead of leaning into social media, because now this is part of your identity. And if you're okay with that forever and ever, amen, that's fine. But to Lucy's point, if she ever wanted to live a quiet life and try again, whoever she dates or whoever she wants to marry, now people are going to be in his face with, what do you think about what happened? This is basically stamped on her. So that's probably the first teachable moment. Just really think about if you want a moment in time to last a lifetime on the internet. All right, so let us continue on.
What else do I need to cover ahead of time? Because I feel like this video is important to give some sort of context, so that way when people jump into the series, they kind of can figure out, oh, let me start at the introduction video and then work my way through. A lot of the questions that you all have sent me will be answered when I start and tell the story in order. Everything I'm going to tell you can be verified. There are people in my life who can easily verify, yes, this did happen. Yes, he really did do that. Yes, he said that. Yes, she did go through that. I have no contact whatsoever with my ex-husband in any way, shape, or form. We do not communicate. We do not have mutual friends or anything, but that where we communicate through those people. No contact. I cannot stress that enough, because I feel like somebody's going to ask me, do you still talk to him? No. I ain't seen him. I ain't heard from him. I don't want to hear from him. And I will tell the entire story up until the last time I did hear from him and what happened. Yeah, this is my story. So, I am just a regular woman who thought she met the one, and I didn't. Most people have never came in contact with a pathological liar. We typically come in contact with like a compulsive liar. It is not the same. A pathological liar has no reason for why they lie. And the lies that they make up, there's no limit to the lie. I was once a psychology major in undergrad. I didn't graduate with a psychology degree, but I'm very comfortable saying that he was a pathological liar. He was a narcissist. And yes, there was some in my opinion, mental health issues going on. Pathological lying part, absolutely.
All right, so let's unpack this part of it. I have a few thoughts here. A couple of things. She said that I want to tell my story. I want to tell what happened to me. All of this can be verified. And I actually do believe her. I don't believe, I know a lot of people feel very strongly she made it up. This is just a money grab, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. However, the teachable moment for me on this is, ladies and gentlemen, beware and be careful. Because even though when she made this series, she said, I'm not going to name anybody's names, I'm going to tell from my perspective. Once you start talking, it allows the other person to come say, oh, but you did this and that. So now the ex-husband is now on his own media tour, and it's just gotten really messy. It was already messy, but now in addition to saying what happened to you, you're having to defend your honor, or maybe you just say, that's over there. But just know that when you start talking about people, even if it was something horrific that happened to you, it basically invites them to do the same. And that's another thing to consider if you want all over the internet. What would you add to that, Lucy?
Yeah, and I would add that also it invites everybody else that's following to start looking into your personal records, your personal life, and start feeding off of that story to, to share, well, this is not what I found here about her. So again, it just becomes it's that snowball effect that it starts really small and then it starts rolling down the mountain and picking up all the stuff around it, and it makes it something that at the end you want to say, was it worth it? Was all of this worth it? And that's where, when you're beginning a relationship and you're thinking about doing something out of impulse, think about it, 5 years, 10 years from now, how will this be affecting me or the person that I'm with or my children?
Yes, and luckily for her, because now that she's on some larger media channels, they've actually background checked, and she, there hasn't come any evidence that she wasn't telling the truth. And I did believe her from the beginning. We just want to point out to you all, from an older woman's perspective, some things that we see. And maybe, I don't know, maybe she had decided, you know what, it's just going to be me and my story. But do consider this, that if you, want to potentially love again, you have invited this circus into your life. The next thing that I wanted to say stood out to me. She talked about him being a pathological liar, a narcissist, the difference between a compulsive liar and a pathological liar, the fact that she studied psychology in school. Ladies, I get it. However, if you are interested in relationship, we've talked about that a lot here. The purpose of dating is to see if this is a suitable match for marriage or long term. I do one-on-one and group consults outside of YouTube, and sometimes I hear, I don't know if it's this pop culture that it's just kind of like we're so ready to slap that label on there. I don't care what you call it. If a man does not have the character befitting of a husband, it's time to exit. It doesn't matter if you see this pattern or we called it that in school. There's this thing where we want to be right. And I'm not saying this about ReesaTeesa, but I see this a lot where it's like, oh yeah, he had attachment issues. Oh yeah, he had this type of syndrome, or he had that. We are vetting as we are being vetted. So if you don't see the character and the qualities that you say, oh yeah, he's husband material and I could easily submit, like I said, we either accept with grace or we exit with grace, but we are not here to diagnose them because we cannot change them. So I just wanted to say that because I find a lot of younger women really fixating on that. Did you want to add anything, Lucy?
Yeah, and attaching those labels without actually being somebody that has um, that field of study, it's a little, you got to be very careful because, again, people are listening, and, what if there's this really, studied psychiatrist saying, well, she's using all these labels. How does she know about this? Yeah, she practiced psychology, she went to school for that. However, the title is not there. So again, it goes back to credibility. You just don't want to start putting labels on people. And if you're meeting someone, if the person did not do it for you the first, second, third, then you just leave without putting those different labels that you hear over and over in social media, and you move on. This thing about talking about past relationships to the world, it really doesn't do any good. You want to, okay, it didn't work out, you move on to a person that has a character that your parents are vetted, that your friends have vetted, that it matches what you are looking for in a relationship.
I love that. So we'll go ahead and finish this, but I love what Lucy said. So I would advise any ladies listening, look, everybody has a past and I get it. When you date, If for whatever reason it didn't work out, learn from it. What could you do better next time? And own that, because it is really off-putting when anybody asks you about your past and it's always something about them, because we were in it too. So think about what you would want to say. I would offer, come up with an elegant response. We had different goals. It wasn't a good fit, but something that is neutral, but I learned a lot and now I'm ready for something different. All right. I would advise that. Of course, you could take it or leave it. Let's finish up this video.
So I want to preface all this by saying you're going to probably think, what in the world? There's no way this happened. Everything you're going to hear me say actually did happen. I never thought I was going to be in some sort of Lifetime movie, but I was. So I will read the comments as best I can. Like I said, I think if you allow me to tell the whole story, things will be answered. And sorry, I do talk with my hands. It's a coping mechanism. So if you're like, why is she moving her hands? Other than that, let's all take a deep breath, buckle in, because this was a fucking crazy ride. And if you think it's crazy, imagine how I feel as the person who lived it and had no idea what I was dealing with. I thought I knew, but I truly had no idea who the fuck I married. You like how I twisted that? Anyway. All right, y'all. This is the introduction, so welcome. Part 1 will be up shortly.
All right, so that was the intro. We can probably get into episode 1. Let's see what you all are saying in the chat. Lucy, did you have anything to add to that before we move on?
You know that one of my weaknesses, as that I would love to improve, is my speaking abilities, and I gotta give it to her. She's an incredible storyteller. The fact that she created, I don't know if it was 52 sections, talking about exactly what happened from beginning to end, that's admirable. I think it requires somebody to yeah, be telling the truth, because when you're not telling the truth, you things don't start making sense. And according to what I've heard, it seems that throughout the path, everything makes sense. So I admire her speaking abilities.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to scan the chat and see who all we have here, and then we'll move on. Yes, I thought her storytelling was incredible. I thought she was very detailed. I thought that she was very composed. There was one episode where she kind of lost it, but absolutely. Hello, everybody coming in. All right, so I'm just looking here. Kim K says, I think it's crazy how people share their life stories on social media. Nothing is private anymore. Yeah, we address that. I mean, it's a personal choice. Just know this, ladies. If you want to put it out there, there are people that are always ready with their popcorn to watch your train wreck. Celine says, I'll give her credit. She didn't put the ex-husband's name on blast. No, she didn't say his name, but again, when you put it out there, it invites people to start their digging. And so now her name is out there, his name is out there. Celine says she rushed into the relationship without doing any actual vetting. She didn't want to be lonely at that time. Yes, we've talked about that. She has admitted that she didn't want to quarantine alone and moved him in very quickly during that vulnerable time. I'm glad you all are enjoying this. Thank you all so much for being here. Yes, and we talked about the time frame, ladies. A year for all of this to happen is incredibly short. Kim K says, I hope she's gotten therapy. She has said that this is taking years, and, with prayer and therapy, she's on her way, but it still affects her. Yes, we talked about moving a man in. I don't recommend it. I've never lived with anyone I'm not married to, but, people do what they want to. And we talked about using these psychology terms, not being experts. Either it's a match or it's not. We got some other ladies coming in here. Escape the rat race. Prime, yes, we are doing a series on the ReesaTeesa saga to see what we can learn from it. I think there's a lot of teachable moments. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Anything else in the chat? All right. All right, Lucy, anything else before we move on?
Move on.
All right, so let's see. Let's see if we can get to episode. So that was the introduction. So we'll move on to her actual episode 1. Okay, so let me.
Please excuse the hair, but here is part 1 of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So I met my ex-husband around March 4th of 2020. We met on Facebook dating site, and we also matched on Hinge. I did not realize that he was on both under 2 different names. So one was his actual name, and the other one was a variation, like a nickname that he called himself. Different pictures. So it was a running joke between us. Oh, you ain't even recognize that you had matched with me on Hinge. No, I didn't. And also that should have been a red flag. By the way, you will notice in this story, I called it the United Nations of red flags. It is so many red flags that, I mean, you would have thought I was colorblind because I ignored all of them. So anyway, back to the story. We met around March 4th. We exchanged phone numbers. He called me and we talked on the phone for the first time. In the first phone call, he told me that he had just moved to Georgia from California, from San Diego. His job had transferred him because he was being transferred in as the new regional manager for a major condiment company that is based here in Georgia. I'm not going to say the name. And so we also talked about his childhood. He told me he grew up in Philly. He's from Philly. Both of his parents were deceased. This is the first phone call. Both of his parents were deceased. His father was a Philadelphia police officer. His mom was a teacher. He also told me he briefly lived in Augusta with his family. He had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He also had 2 half-brothers on his dad's side. First phone call. So I'm just giving you guys the backstory. This was the first phone call we had. So we talked about family. We talked about friends. We talked about our jobs. At the time, I was working at Georgia State Patrol. And he knew this, and he just thought that was like, wow, you know, so you work with troopers all day. Yes, I did. Also in that phone call, he explained to me that he used to play football. He explained that he used to play arena football. I know nothing about arena football. I know about NFL. I know about college. Go Dogs. But I don't know.
All right, so let's take a little break here and unpack this one. So she said it multiple times, and admittedly, I don't know much about online dating. I met my ex-husband at work. I met my current man. We grew up together, so I guess you could say school. So they met online and matched online. Apparently, he had 2 different profiles with 2 different names. And the way she explained it is like a full name and a nickname, like a Matthew and a Matt. And I believe it is common if you're online dating that you have multiple profiles. Again, I don't know much about that. But by the time they exchanged numbers and started talking, he really unleashed a lot of detail about his life, his upbringing, where he's lived, what he does, why he's moved, his family, so many details. Oh, that he was a former football player. To me, that's a red flag, and she admitted this was the United Nations of red flags. Ladies, the kind of men that we want to marry, they don't really have to say a lot because who they are just kind of oozes from them. And you will get to know some of the things about their life as they live it out. I think anybody who just kind of dumps all of that, to me, you're hiding something, because why are you telling me so much? And two, you've rehearsed this before. Like, why is it so easy for you to just rattle off all of these details? So that was a red flag for me. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree because if you think about it, men are not talkers. A man that talks a lot to me sounds like he's trying to sell me something, and it's not something that I want to buy. So, again, on a first telephone call, usually you go, into just at a glance things about our lives, but nothing about that detailed about how many brothers you have, and your parents are deceased, and all of that stuff. That's a lot of information at once. So that to me would give me a little bit of a, wait a minute, there's something here that's just, it's too much, too overwhelming. And maybe you could say maybe he's nervous, maybe he's trying to impress me with all this information. But then again, we know in our our instinct, you're like, that's too much information for me. Why is he sharing so much? If we become something, is he going to be sharing that information with everybody that he meets about us? So again, that's another red flag for me.
I absolutely love that. Lucy brings up such a good point about men are not talkers. Ladies, masculine men aren't. They are doers. They do not just go over all the details. That's a very feminine trait. I'll leave that there. Kim K is saying, I'm curious if she Googled him or looked his social media to find him. I got an issue with this. I understand, and again, I am not an online dater, and I understand that it's probably common that you're going to research someone, but we talked about this on our first episode. Number one, when you take time to really let a relationship naturally unfold, you will start to see things that are red flags in real life. I think that you don't need to go down the rabbit hole of investigative reporting. And like Lucy said, your spidey senses start to go up when you start hearing and seeing things. So ladies, let this be almost like an exercise. You know how you stop using the GPS and actually try to drive somewhere, try to dial a number without the speed. Like, let's not let the modern technology and the conveniences that we have that are great damper the senses that we have evolved and been born to kind of figure out if something is off here, because we can really miss a lot of things if we just rely too heavily on that. So to answer your question, she didn't look him up in the beginning. She did later, and that's when things started to really unfold. But she said she hesitated on doing that because she had that sixth sense. And it's one of those things, like, once you have information, then you have to act on it. So she kicked the can down a long time. But ladies, you have these instincts for a reason. So I would just offer that. Anything else to add before we move on, Lucy?
Yes, and going back to the social media stuff with technology, because they were meeting mostly online, I would say that Googling him would probably apply because it was technology based and not in real life. Again, we promote meeting people person to person. At least for me, I met my ex-husband through a family member, and I met my beautiful current husband on my job. He worked for kind of like similar thing for a nonprofit with, for on the urban side, and me was for rural areas, and we had that in common. And again, that's where you start talking and seeing, people, you know, what do they drive? Are they are is his car clean? If you look inside, does he believe in cleanliness, or is he like a mess? So it's those things that you just don't get to see when you are talking to someone online.
Absolutely. But great point, Kim. All right, so let us continue.
know anything about arena football. So he explained to me that he used to play arena football. He used to work at Apple in the off season of arena football. And I remember thinking on that phone call, oh, okay, like, good for you. I don't know anything about arena football. And I believe I did tell him that I don't know anything about arena football. That'll come into play later on. So he told me, I just moved here. My job is paying for my housing and they are helping me to look for a house. He was like, right now I'm in Gwinnett County, but I'm trying to look for a house, ideally in Atlanta, like Brookhaven, Sandy Springs. He was like, I really would like to move out there. And so I thought, that's great. You're looking to get a house. You just moved here. He was like, I don't really know too many people here because I spend all my time at work and, this job is really demanding. So that was our first phone call. We talked more. He talked a lot, which took me by surprise because I'm not really used to men talking more than me. He eventually asked me out on a date. Our first date was set for Saturday, March 7th, 2020. He asked me what was my favorite restaurant. I said Cheesecake Factory. And so we agreed to go out at the Cheesecake Factory in a location that was in between. I lived in Clayton County at the time. He lived in Gwinnett County. I realized that if you don't know anything about Metro Atlanta, that makes no sense. But basically, we lived about 45 minutes apart. So we agreed to meet at the Cheesecake Factory over at Perimeter Mall, which is in an area, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody area. I was excited. Like, I called my friends and was like, I got a date, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how it goes. First conversation was good. Hopefully he looks like his pictures because, that's always an issue with online dating. Hopefully he looks like his pictures. So on my way to our date, I took 285 and literally right before I got to Boulder Crest, the exit for Boulder Crest, I heard a boom and I lost control of my car. Thank God that not thank God, but I knew what to do. So I did not crash, but my tire blew out. So I called him and I said, hey, I'm so sorry, but my tire just blew on 285. I'm slowly making my way off the exit. I believe I pulled into a Chevron gas station. And I said, I got to get this fixed. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm a damsel in distress kind of thing. He kind of paused. He got quiet. And he was like, tell me exactly where you are. Drop your pin. So I dropped the pin. And he came to the gas station. Got out the car. And I was so relieved that he actually looked like his pictures that I was like, oh my God, he's actually attractive. Because he's like 6'4", 6'5". Also, man, I apologize. So let me go back to the first conversation. Let me add something. He did tell me in the first phone call that he was divorced, and that his ex-wife, she had 2 children, a boy and a girl, who were teenagers, young adults. I think the girl was about 20. And he said that he had a very close relationship with his stepkids. But that he and his ex-wife had divorced because she cheated on him out in California. And so coming to Georgia was a new beginning for him. She was still out in California. The kids were still out in California. And so, he was like, I can't stand her, but I still want to be in the kids' lives. I have to put that in there because that will come back later. So this is just setting the stage. Again, that first conversation we talked about family, job, friends, how he ended up in Georgia, me being in Georgia, the things that, I would think people talk about in the first conversation. All right, now back to the tire blew out. So he shows up to the gas station. He changes my tire, which I just thought was the sexiest thing in the world. And then he proceeds to say, hey, I found a tire place around the corner. You need to get another tire. Like, you can't drive on this donut. So he followed me to the tire place, and then helped me get a tire, paid for it.
All right, so let's unpack this section before we wrap. Okay, so a lot there. So you all heard they established a date. They're supposed to meet at the Cheesecake Factory, and she's excited. And I think that's a natural and good thing. She called her girlfriend. She's like, oh, I've got a date. We do look forward to being, in the company of a man that we, admire or are curious about. Nothing is wrong with that. She also said that when her tire blew out, he came to change the tire and replace her tire. Also very noble, especially for a stranger, basically a stranger, to do that. But ladies, there's a saying that says, like a broken clock is right 2 times a day. And by that, I just mean that nobody is all the way good and nobody is all the way bad. So this is where your discernment comes in, and you look for those patterns and that red thread that's connected to those red flags. Sometimes ladies find themselves staying in relationships or entering in relationships because there's maybe one redeemable quality, or like she says, he pays the bills and I don't have to, or whatever reason. But just know that ultimately, you want to make a decision. Can I live with this person? And you will see over the course of this saga that there were so many other things that completely tipped the scales from, replacing the tire. And then the last thing I'll say on this section, he talked about his previous marriage. She cheated on me, and I'm coming here because this is a new start. Again, like Lucy said, men, and especially masculine men, they do not give these type of details. If a relationship is over, it is over and they move on. They don't really go on this victim story about she cheated on me and that happened. That's another red flag. A man who leads with how somebody did him wrong, I would argue is not the caliber of man that you would want for husband material, because you need a man who is prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for the family. All right, Lucy, what would you add?
To add to that is that she said that in the conversation, he said that he stated that he could not stand the ex-wife. So again, wow, there's some animosity there. Is that something that I want to be even involved in that situation with somebody that still has that anger towards that other person, instead of just, usually you say, well, it didn't work out. Maybe later on I can tell you the whole story. But for now, I think that let's focus on us and fixing this problem and doing this. Another thing is that I would have felt really uncomfortable having my first date pay for a tire. I would have loved that he changed it. That would have been something. Oh my goodness, he's got skills. But I would have said, you know what? My AAA, my insurance will pay for it. Don't worry about it, or whatever. Because again, that gives him, I don't know, like strings attached. Where, on a first date, if things don't go well, they didn't go well, and then you don't feel like you owe that tire change or that new tire to the person that you owe him a second date because he paid for that tire. So again, those are things that in those dates, the first dates, you start thinking about things. Maybe I'm not feeling it with him. I'm not gonna, get myself into something that I may have to owe later on, like another date. So I'll just let it be.
Such a great point, Lucy. I mean, the old folks used to say, don't accept anything from a man you're not willing to do something for. And ladies, as enticing as it is, it just creates that connection that you're not sure that you want. If this is the man for you, believe me, there will be plenty of times for him to show up as the provider once the relationship is established. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll finish this out. I love what Lucy said about how he talked about oh, I hate my ex-wife, you definitely want to make sure that you're not walking into a ring of fire. We all have a past and relationships, but I would argue men as well as women need to be able to say, you know what, that ended. I probably wouldn't go into a lot of detail. I always talk about what I can learn from it. Like I tell you all the time, I'm a reformed modern woman. I got caught up in that modern woman mindset. Unfortunately, my marriage ended in divorce after 10 years, but I learned from that. Now I'm in a very traditional relationship. Think of what you want to say that is positive, that takes accountability, that you've learned from it, and how you're applying that moving forward. So even though this happened with the man giving all that detail, ladies, I would advise you as well not to do that on any new relationship, because you're basically dragging that old relationship with you. And a man doesn't want to hear that. He just doesn't, because he's like, what does that have to do with me? All right, so let's finish this one up.
So I was definitely like, wow. And so the vibe was good. So anyway, I get the tire fixed. We follow each other to the Cheesecake Factory over in Perimeter. We hold hands walking into the Cheesecake Factory. So in my mind, I'm like, this is just this. Oh my God, I had butterflies. That's the look of a woman who had butterflies. So I had butterflies. And we go in, there's a long wait. And so we sit outside and we just talk. And the conversation's great. And this is where he tells me what it is he's looking for. He tells me, you know, I believe at the time he was 42. He was like, I want to get married and it be for real. He's like, my parents were married 40 plus years before my mom passed away. And I want that. I want marriage, family, a house. Like, that is what I want. He's like, I'm as a man, I'm ready to get married, but I want it to be for real, because the first time, you know, it really hurt me when she cheated on me. So he's telling me everything that I wanted to hear. And so he was like, what is it that you want? And I said pretty much the same thing. I was like, I'm ready to get married. Definitely want to have a family. And I want to marry my best friend. So we both put on the table that we wanted marriage. And this is the end of part 1.
All right, everybody. So let's unpack this one, and then we'll see what you all are saying in the chat, and we'll wrap it up. So after the tire debacle, they are on the way to the Cheesecake Factory. And I don't know if you all picked up that she said, we held hands walking into the Cheesecake Factory. I am meeting you in person for the first time. To me, any type of physical contact, even holding hands, is quite intimate. And yes, you know, I'm with my best friend, and I have a history with him for years, and I love holding hands. But ladies, we've got to be able to discipline ourselves to be able to wait for something to be real. I think we're conjuring up the things that we want because we've played this out in our head, and I'm going to meet a man and it's going to be amazing instantly like that. That's the Disney movie. There really is no love at first sight. It develops over time if it's real and it sustains. So they're sitting and they're talking, and again, he's saying all of this detail about his family and what he wants. Like Lucy said, I would offer, a masculine man is not going to tell you all of the detail. He's going to show you, and he's going to allow you to put some things together, and either you qualify as wife material for him or you don't. But all that talking, all this what I want, reminding her that his ex-wife cheated on him, it's just too much and it's too soon. The last thing that I'll say as a teachable moment, you could tell that she was very, excited when he changed the tire. I think that's a wonderful masculine trait. But the fact that he paid for the replacement tire, and you'll hear later on in future episodes where she almost had this, I want to say almost like drunk in love because he was paying bills. And ladies, we believe in traditional gender roles here and we love when men provide, but you want to make sure that you are able to take care of yourself so that you're not desperate for anyone who relieves you from the financial obligation of being an adult gets rushed to the front of the line and now is, oh, thank you for saving me from myself. So ladies, if that means that we have to lower our standard of living a little bit and maybe take a less vacation or less spa treatments, but men realize when we are just so swept away with a little bit of money, I got you. Because for men, it's like, okay, I'll just make more of it. You're on that hamster wheel, you fall for the bait, and it's like, oh, all I got to do is pay bills, and she's putty in my hands. So just be mindful of that because that fact right there, starting with the tire, I think she had already made up her mind. Like, this is the one. If it's going to be like this, I'm in. What would you say, Lucy?
Yeah, when he started talking about marriage, my mind went back to a man who has ended a serious relationship is not going to be talking about marriage immediately. Again, that is kind of another red. Is he just telling me things that I want to hear? Or is he for real? Because usually men, if you ask them after they've been in a long relationship, they're going to say, well, right now I'm just focusing on my business. I'm doing all of these things. And if the right person comes along, then maybe we can start, a friendship or whatever. But they're not going to be talking. I'm telling you about marriage right away. If they do that, that is something that maybe should give you time to pause and say, why does he want to get into another serious relationship when he's just ended the one that he still has anger issues with? Um, Another thing, the thing about, that allowing him to pay your bills when you don't have that established relationship, it gives it allows him to say, you know what, even when we weren't married, I paid your bills and this is how you treat me or whatever. So again, it's a very delicate situation where we as women, we do need to show that we can take care of ourselves, but appreciate once the relationship becomes more serious that he's willing to say, yeah, don't worry about that, I'll cover for that. But it shouldn't be something that you think he's going to come in and pay all your bills just because he can, because he doesn't have to.
So many good points. All right, so we're going to see what you all are saying in the chat. I hear you on Instagram. Y'all are agreeing. And yes, ladies, so, the takeaway on this, men don't spend money and don't expect anything from it. Full stop. So just know that and decide if that's what you want to establish. And I would just say this, first dates, she had a vehicle, she had a tire blowout. And so it took a little bit of a detour. But first dates, I would think, are light. Are, do we like each other? How, what's the sense of just kind of being in your company? Is the conversation simple? We're not talking about our life's dreams and goals yet. So just be mindful of that. As a red flag, ladies, especially if it comes from a man. Masculine men don't move that way. There's almost a mystique or mysteriousness about them that they only reveal over time to the woman that they really are vetting for a relationship. And ladies, I'm going to give you a tip from my man, from mean old mister. He said, Maggie, courting and dating are not the same thing. You can go on a date. You can be dating someone and he is not courting you for a serious relationship. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's see what you all are saying in the chat. Y'all are still surprised that she did not do a background check on him. Apparently this is a thing. I could be wrong, but I still stand by. I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm watching the behavior. I'm looking at the trends. I'm picking up on social cues. Is there something off here? But if y'all need to do background searches, I guess go ahead. Bella says that is a long conversation for a first date and chat. Absolutely right. And we've said that, and I know we have men that watch and support. If you all want to chime in, how much do you really reveal on a first date? Or are you really just, trying to see, are we even compatible? Everybody coming in and saying hello. I don't know the question here, so maybe you want to repeat. Bella says it's a thing with online daters, sadly. I understand. And again, Lucy and I are older women. I'm 49 later this year. Lucy shared she's 57. So we talked about this in the first episode, and this will be a playlist. We just come from a time when you meet people out in the real world. And so they kind of show up already doing the things as part of their routine. So you kind of see them as they are. And when a man meets you in the real world, believe me, ladies, he's been watching for a while and looking for that consistency. So I get it that there's this kind of like double dutch in the online world, like, who are you? What's your deal? What's your story? And to me, that just seems like a very, I don't know, it's like a hurdle you have to jump in the beginning to prove that you're like a real person with good intentions. And it makes me sad. I would struggle with that. What would you add, Lucy?
And I wanted to touch back on the hand holding fact. I can tell you that on first dates, what men do, they open the door for you. They may have touch you in the back, kind of like a little slight touch just to, say, before you or whatever. But that hand holding at the beginning, that's not normal. I can guarantee you that most people that have gone on first dates, you do not hold hands, even though you've had hours and hours on the phone. That's kind of like a public PDA, public display of affection, that you hold that until there's really some kind of um, solid belief that you're going to, you know, you have started a good friendship. But that thing about holding hands at the beginning, that was a little weird to me.
Absolutely. And Gillis is here. She says, wow, people do background checks now in relationships. I'm so doggone old and been out of the game forever. I hear you. I'm right there with you, but I understand this is reality. And Urban Self-Defense says you feel for compatibility on a first date. So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, like I said, I reached out to ReesaTeesa to get permission to review this, and we are going to be looking at the red flags and what we can learn from it. We all make mistakes. We just don't want to repeat those mistakes. And if you can learn from what someone else did and maybe see something that you can do better, that is our heart here to share. I guess the last thing I'll say before we close out, reminder, we are having the Maggie Lou meetup. It's coming up on Saturday, April 6th. I will drop the link in the chat. This is going to be open to the public if you want to get your tickets. We are getting ready for the finishing school graduation, getting ready to order their trophies. But the Friday before, I'm sorry, I said Saturday. It's going to be Friday. It's a long weekend, y'all. Friday, April 5th. The link, I just dropped the link in the chat. Bottomless sangria, rounds of appetizers. It's going to be a casual event. Lucy's coming all the way from California, and lots of ladies in the finishing school. So, Lucy, any final thoughts as we close out?
I thought we were going to show the pic. Everyone?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I will. I'm going to show you all our ladies. Some of them haven't even seen this, but I will share with you all something very, very special. Lucy and I have been privately teaching 2 rounds of the finishing school for the modern woman, and we now have our graduating class. If you want your kids to learn from us, we've got summer school coming up in July. You can also go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. But for now, this is our first year graduates. I am so excited. Some of them are in the chat, but they are going to be making their way to Atlanta. We're going to have a very special graduation dinner and royal tea for the ladies. So many things that we're planning. I am so proud because just last year, Lucy and I were putting this curriculum together, and the ladies have done the work, and the finishing begins. What would you like to add, Lucy?
It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be just a group of beautiful ladies. And you can see from the first group and the second group which ones came in with that desire to learn. And you can see the progression on they were, they were a little, a butterfly, and they became just amazing butterflies. And we're going to get to meet each other in Atlanta at the beginning of April, and I'm just so looking forward to it.
My goodness, yes, absolutely. And I saw the question. The meetup is going to be here in Atlanta. So if you're in Atlanta or want to come to Atlanta, we are going to be hosting our public event on Friday, and then we will be tending to the ladies on Saturday and Sunday. But we thought we'd throw a meetup in the mix for anyone who wants to meet me and Lucy in person. So get your tickets and we will see you all at Eclipse de Luna. Yes, they're saying what a wonderful picture. Congratulations, ladies. Oh my goodness. Yes, so many things coming in. You need the ladies in Houston. We have ladies in California and Mississippi and Pennsylvania. They're coming from all over, and I'm just absolutely honored and grateful, and it has been a joy. So with that, I think we'll dismiss. Am I missing anything else, Lucy? Any final words?
I think we're good tonight.
All right, so thank you all so much for being here. You can go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com for all of the details about the summer school, the meetup, if you want to get on the wait list, because we'll teach another round in the fall for the finishing school. But until then, we will see you back here in a week for the next episode on our saga for what we can learn from ReesaTeesa. OCM says, can guys come? Absolutely. To the happy hour. So yes, the happy hour is available to all. You just have to get your tickets and we will cover your drinks and appetizers. And then the ladies will have our Saturday and Sunday. Great question. And the finishing school for the modern woman is exclusively for ladies. However, for the etiquette summer school for kids, that will be co-ed. So that will be kids aged 5 to 15. And then the finishing school is ladies 16 to 60 plus. All right. I think that's all of our announcements. So we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Adios.
Mhm.